James McGuire here at Celosphere 2025. I'm joined by Dan Brown, Chief Product Officer at Celonis. We're talking about all the big topics, AI, data, process mining, and especially the big changes going on in the enterprise today. Dan, thanks for joining us. It has been a busy couple of days here at Celosphere, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been fantastic meeting with customers, partners, tons of energy, great product announcements, a lot of vision. It's good. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, let's talk about process mining.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously it has made its presence felt really largely in the enterprise. Not everyone is familiar with it. So how would you summarize the value of process mining to an executive who's thinking about it? Why should they care?
Yeah, great question. So I think, in digital systems, a lot of times we think, okay, this is the way our company does things. Every requisition turns into a purchase order, and each purchase order throws through and gets fulfilled, and so on and so forth. All those steps
in the process.
That's correct. And when you take what process mining does is it looks at all of these systems and these digital footprints of documents that are moving through and work that is happening. And we take that data and we use inference algorithms to actually show you exactly how the process works. And then we take all of those instances and we can create a process model from that, including the many variations. So we can understand immediately the distribution of all the variations. So if you wanted to know, like, hey, what's the highest percentage flow in this process, we can show you that.
Okay.
Now, once you have that, we get this X-ray. Now you can say, okay, is this really the right way of doing things? And if so, how do I want to modify it? And then how do I manage it and operate it after? So we talk about this thing of analyze, design, and operate. You take the X-ray, you go, wow, that's not what I expected. Then you modify it, you might optimize, you might engineer, and then of course you go and run away and operate it and see if you actually made improvements.
Right, okay. It involves making a digital twin in most or all cases.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
That's exactly right. So what we do is we take data from those source systems, we put it into a format of objects and events.
Right.
We build and infer the business process as an object has events that touch it, and we can do that over multiple processes that intersect. A lot of times processes interact with each other.
And that's part of the problem with the enterprise.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
A lot of times optimization problems are because of intersections and interdependencies between processes. But you're absolutely right, that digital twin fuels the discovery, fuels the modeling, and then the operations goes right back into the digital twin.
All right, let's talk about how it works in the real world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are some actual compelling use cases out there in the enterprise? Instances where people have actually made money using intelligence like this.
Yeah, sure. So a really good example is, one of the things that we measure is the number of human touches in a process.
Which slows things down, I think, in most instances.
Yeah, it slows things down. There's a unit cost that is associated with it. So it's very typical when you do a process mining, you go in and you start bringing your digital twin and you analyze it, that you identify places that have high human touch, and then you can put in remediation to go actually correct that. So those might be automations, those might be like rerouting, they might be scripts that actually take care of something that might otherwise be human intervention. And so that's a very typical example. Another example is where you see duplication of process. So a lot of times we'll see things like master data duplication or duplicating invoices simply from the process flow. And you would think those kinds of very simple things would show up in a system of record, but often they don't. And so we can find lots of things like that simply from process mining. A lot of the really special things happen when you want to handle exceptional conditions. So let me give you an example. So when you have a defined process, you've done your discovery, you might say, this is a variation that I want to know about. And an example of a customer that we have is when I have an order that is blocked by a credit issue in the back office.
Right, which happens.
Which happens, right? So now you have a little bit of a contention between the objective of selling something and the objective of collecting on something.
Uh-huh.
So we have customers that will, when these things happen, they will spawn off work that might actually automatically approve based on the credit history of the customer, based on the order, based on the importance of the customer, or bring a human in the loop to put human judgment on it. So another example of where process mining can happen in flight.
All right. The big topic, though, of course, is agentic AI.
Yes.
That's really 2025, 2026 feels like the era of agentic AI peaking, really.
Yeah.
Or at least birthing into something way bigger than it is now.
Yeah.
I think the issue is, how do we trust these agents? How do we govern these agents? Because they're going to be making decisions across the enterprise. And of course, we can't always have a human monitor them because they're too busy for that. So how do we really track these entities?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic question. This comes up a lot.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think it manifests itself as most companies are much more comfortable when agents provide recommendations and then they validate them. But one of the things that we do, we obviously have, we can see system of record updates. So if an agent is making an action, taking an action that ultimately goes back and transacts in a system of record, we will see that.
All right.
In addition, agent mining is where an agent will actually tell the process intelligence graph that it is doing work. So you get two sources of information that tell you when an agent is working. When it touches a system of record, because you know that they have certain credentials, so you know it is an agent happening, or registering directly with the process intelligence graph, essentially agent mining. And then you can see, all right, over time, as I'm measuring my KPI and I've put an agentic solution in place, what's happening? Is the KPI going down like it should be? Is it going up like it should be? Is it not going anywhere? Right? So that's and I think that's actually one of the things that's really special about Celonis is that we can apply compliance and apply learning and apply apply an agentic strategy to an actual KPI and outcome. Thus, return on AI investment. I think we can show that.
I've heard there will come a day when agents are running agents.
Yes.
I mean, is that something that you see happening?
I do. And here's an example of where I think that can happen. So, when you think about a general framework for an agent, usually we talk about an agent will sense something in the environment. An agent will reason about why it happened. An agent will plan what to do. An agent will go and execute it. And an agent will learn from that experience and the outcome. First, I think that an agent can control agents that do these independent things. So that's one piece. If you drill down specifically into the execution of a plan and the plan itself, I think agents will be able to do that dynamically. So in other words, you have an agent that is understanding the environment and dynamically planning what should happen next, and then working with other agents that may update systems of record or do further planning and actions. So I think this is one of the things that is we're going to figure out over the next year or so. What are those patterns about you might have deliberate orchestration that invokes agents. You might have an agent that is deliberately invoking imperative code or RPA or whatever. You might have agents calling agents. So I think that you're going to see lots of different patterns that happen. And certainly with the more comfort and the more precision that you get out of agents, more deployment of them doing more things.
Yes, interesting. Okay. Well, let's zoom out a little bit back to process intelligence. Because I know that it does have its challenges, certainly its benefits, but its challenges. So what do you see as some of the challenges of instituting process intelligence, whether it's change resistance, it's data problems, and what is Celonis doing to address those problems?
Great question. So I think, they, like with any technology, they fall into two pieces. There's obviously a technical component to that, and there's obviously sort of like a Kotler change management thing, the very traditional, how do you educate the organization? How does it change the operating model, the roles and responsibilities, and so on? happy to talk about that, but I'll talk about the technical piece first.
Good.
We can go into the second if you'd like.
Sure.
When it comes to technology and process, intelligence and a digital twin, you want to establish a system agnostic and uniform, meaning at the right level of altitude, a semantic model. That's what a process intelligence graph is.
Okay.
So typically with different systems, it's very common for a CRM system to have the concept of an order. It's very common for, obviously most CRM systems take orders.
Of course.
But there's also an order, like an SOP process, and certainly accounts receivable have the understanding of an order as well. But these things aren't necessarily the right shape and size.
Right.
And you see this between middle office and front office, between middle office and back office, between front office and back office. The more systems that you have, the more misshapes that you have. And so what a semantic layer, what a process intelligence graph does, is it unifies those things. And so you have to get your data into a uniform, process intelligence graph and digital twin, and then you get high leverage out of that.
Okay.
Because then you can start seeing end-to-end process and interdependent process. Make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So what are we doing about that? Turns out generative AI is quite good at some of these things. It's quite good at understanding the data dictionary of source systems, the RESTful APIs of source systems. They're typically out on the web as documentation. So we can create extractions very easily with Gen AI. Modeling ETL, how you transform that raw data based on a data dictionary to a data model.
Right.
Generative AI, we have an ETL assistant that actually creates SQL based on those two things.
Okay.
And then finally creating the process intelligence graph, the types of objects and events and relationships between them. We also have a data model assistant that helps with these things. And I think the curve on that is going to go very, very rapidly to the point where getting a digital twin set up will be much, much quicker.
Maybe the humans would be the slowest element. We've always said, no, maybe. Well, the humans,
Could be.
They have a lot to offer, the humans, but they can be a little slow sometimes.
Yes.
I know we're almost out of time. I'd love to get your sense of where we're going for the future. Process mining and AI, the future. Obviously, those two things, I think, have a pretty bright future. What do you see happening?
Two things. So when we talk about analyze, design, and operate, I think that agents, because they can scale, and therefore you can ascertain more problems,
right,
and you can ascertain the interdependencies of those problems, I think agents will have a big impact on the types of problems you can analyze.
It will enlarge that set.
I think it'll enlarge that set.
Right.
We obviously think object centricity is really critical there because, the types of problems often involve different departments and the way that they interact. But I think that if you think about like bottlenecks, for example.
Right.
Bottlenecks that happen between, I have a large order and maybe I want to drop ship, but the production order is late, or something from a bill of materials on a direct, procurement is not making there for me to actually do the production or kit or whatever. Those interdependencies, I think agents can do a very good job of analyzing, and the elasticity is something that hiring more people is unit cost is problematic. Spinning up a bunch more agents is not.
Right.
I think a similar thing is true around designing. Okay, now that you have this data, how can I reorient the enterprise? And then certainly going and executing, you have an elasticity there as well, particularly when it comes to handling exceptional conditions.
But let me make sure I know, when you say elasticity, you mean it can go back and forth within the system with a certain amount of a leash, so to speak?
Scaling up and down as, if you think about let's say you're an e-commerce retailer.
Right.
And, if you look at your profile of elasticity, you're going to be ramping up massively from November, December and the holiday seasons.
Okay.
Super easy for Agentic AI to do that, right? You can just spin up more compute.
Sure.
But I think the real transformation that's going to happen is as agents and systems help us analyze, design, and operate more quickly and at more scale, you're going to see that loop go faster and faster. And I think you're going to see them merge to some extent. So the boundary between, I'm going to sit down and assess, and then I'm going to make a change, and then I'm going to go run it, and then I'm going to go do that again. I think that that's going to speed up massively. And I think that will have fairly significant impacts on the digital operating model of all companies.
Yeah, I see that. Ooh, that is going to really change business very profoundly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Dan, I think you said it. Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to speak again sometime.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.